Let's take a look through this tutorial on how to create a new preview cluster of HD Insight 3.1 and how to take advantage of some of these improvements to the Hive query engine. In order to create an HD Insight cluster running the new preview version 3.1, we're going to need to select new to specify we want to create a new cluster, but this time we're going to choose custom create instead of the quick create option we showed before. Like before, I have to supply a cluster name, and this name does need to be unique throughout the Azure HD Insight.net domain. So I'm going to enter a unique name now. And if I see the green check mark, I know that I'm unique. The data node size of 4 default is fine for what I'm going to do, but you can choose any number here as long as it fits within the parameters that you have applied to your subscription. For the HD Insight version, I want to choose version 3.1, which you can see includes HDP 2.1. That's the HortonWorks Data Platform version 2.1. That's the version that contains a lot of these great Hive improvements we're going to look at. For the region, just like before, the region does need to match your storage account. Region, for me, that's East US. We'll move on to the next page. You'll notice in this page that we can on this page, we can configure the username that we want to use to access this cluster. So I'm going to enter my username and specify a password. Just like before, this password needs to be 10 characters and contain a certain number of special characters and other types of characters. Go ahead and click next to the final page, and here's where I specify which storage account I want to use. I have already created a storage account that I'd like to take advantage of for this cluster. So my storage account is JDF HDI2, and I have a default container already created, and I only need one storage account. So I'm going to complete this. This process is going to begin running. It's going to take probably about 20 minutes for it to provision this cluster. So we'll come back when that's complete and continue looking at what we can do with Hive. While this HD Insight cluster is being created, I thought we could take a look at some of the data that we're going to analyze during this session. On my Azure storage account, I have uploaded some data from NOAA, which contains some hourly collected climate data from across the United States since the beginning of 2014. On here I have approximately 220 files, and each file contains one record per hour, so 24 records per day for each climate station. So a significant amount of data. There's probably about close to 1 million rows total across these 220 files. So as we look at some of the new performance enhancing features we have with Hive, this is the data set we're going to be using. If we want to take a look at what one of these files looks like, we can actually download this directly from our Azure storage into Internet Explorer and just get a look to see this is some basic comma separated data that contains some describing attributes like what day it was, what was the station ID, and then also some metrics like what was the max temp during the hour, what was the min temperature during the hour, how much precipitation was collected during that hour, and so forth. So we'll be looking at several of these metrics and running some queries that do some aggregations in Hive, and looking at the Tez engine and some vectorization queries to see how we can improve the performance from basic MapReduce. Now that my new HD Insight cluster is up and running, we can start to take a look at some of the new features. If you've used HD Insight at all in the last year or so since it was released as general availability, you'll know that the management portal we saw in one of the previous videos has not been present in HD Insight for some time. With version 3.1, however, a new management portal comes back that allows us to interact with HD Insight through a web browser and specifically submit Hive queries to the cluster. We can access that portal with this Manage Cluster button down at the bottom. And when I do that, that simply launches a new web page and connects directly to my HD Insight cluster and lets me submit Hive jobs.